you have you correct me if I'm wrong on the infrastructure of what we're witnessing, but a great champion. These things are hard to come by. You've seen the fight with Durant and LeBron and all of these brands for the last decade, 15 years. They've kind of empire built in the middle of it. At the center of it's this furnace who's unhinged. He gets suspended. They lose one final over here. He feels like he's very responsible for their success. He's hugely famous. He now is teaming up with LeBron on Let's Conquer Hollywood. I want to be new media. I want to be the next Barkley. At the center of this, they've got to give money to certain guys, and he just showed you he's so prideful and filled with ego that he punched Jordan Poole in the face in the way that got everybody's attention. And what I'm asking you is, when in the center of that, Draymond Green wants his money, because he's a champion and he's willful and he's responsible for a lot of the value in that city, as they can be light years ahead of everybody, taking all that tech money and running the sport. Do you pay Draymond Green as he says, I want my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? Why are you giving it to Wiggins? Why are you giving it to Poole? I'll punch Poole in the face over maybe money, maybe not money, and let's put that in the center of this last season when these guys get paid. Do what with that now?
You do what the Warriors are doing, which is, we're not comfortable committing at this time that much money to you at this age.
But it seems like the year's not the money to you. Like, they're okay with the money for the now, the next 2 or 3 seasons. It's 4 or 5 years from now.
The money now is like $27 million.
I know.
Yeah, he's making, just so you guys know, he's got 2 years left on his deal. Next year's a player option. He's slated to make $27.5 next year. This year he's making $25.8.
I mean, that is like, they don't have a problem with that. The problem is his market value based on what he's done right now, what Dan is talking about. Yeah, it's like a $35-40 million player. But they're like, but that would be 2 years from now, right? If we sign him to an extension.
It's also fallen off a bit from where he was a couple years ago.
Where he was a couple of years ago.
Still valuable to that team,
Still valuable right now in this current incarnation, absolutely. But like at some point, he's not going to be that anymore, and they don't want to be stuck paying him as while they're paying Curry, while they're paying Klay Thompson, while now they're going to be paying Poole and Wiggins. That's a lot of money. It's great when you're winning a championship. It's not so great when you're like, he's all right, but he's not that anymore.
I mean, Stephen A. said matter-of-factly on First Take that, Draymond's going to partner up with LeBron next year. Like, his mind's already gone over there, and that kind of informs everybody's perspective, I think, on what happened with Poole.
So this is where things get interesting. The Lakers have incredible cap flexibility next year. It's LeBron, it's Anthony Davis, and it's like the Max Christie and a couple other young guys, and that's it. So they've got enough space to go either after a max guy or split up among smaller, but
couple of good guys,
right? Is Draymond Green at 33 years old asking for what he's going to be asking for, which isn't going to be $27 million? Is that the most effective use of that space for the Lakers? Well, we know what LeBron flourishes with is being surrounded with spacing. Put in a different way, Chris Middleton's going to be a free agent next year. You think Chris Middleton is a better fit for the Lakers, or do you think Draymond Green is a better fit for the Lakers? And then factor in their size and factor in their ages and factor in all that other stuff. Like Draymond is, you won't find a bigger fan of his game than me, but part of this business is making the cold calculation of, yes, you were largely responsible for our championship success. Yes, you've been as integral as anyone not named Steph Curry in this whole thing. Also, I don't want to pay you $40 million when you're 34 years old. I mean, 35 years old.
Everything you just said is reasonable, totally reasonable from a business perspective. If I'm looking at this as Draymond Green, in the era of these guys know what it is to be either new media or brand management, as he sidles up next to LeBron with whatever the next stage is in his career, Draymond does so as a decorated champion who believes that he has the star power that Klay and Steph demand. And he's not totally wrong, because he's done things with his mouth that they have not done. And now they're about to give Klay his money too, because they're going to decide between them two. And if it comes down to that, they're going to go with the guy who's more likable. They're going to go.
It's not about likability.
Well, it's not going to look like it's about likability, but Klay, if they've got to decide on the money from Draymond's perspective, I mean, you think Draymond's going to he's going to have an accurate self-assessment here that Klay's worth more than him? Like you and I
that
can
Clay's more important than Draymond is.
You and I can argue about that, but you think that Draymond's self-assessment there is going to be an accurate one on who he thinks is responsible for winning in Golden State?
I think Draymond recognizes Clay's value. I think the problem probably is Wiggins and Poole. That's where the problem lies.
But now they've made that decision, so now I think a bunch of chips just got pushed to the table between Golden State and Draymond. And I'm asking Amin, our basketball guy, how dramatic is this going to get given that it's already started with Draymond punching Jordan in the face?
But Dan, here's the thing. So first of all, I would argue, yes, Draymond is more instrumental to their past success than Klay Thompson has been. That's not a knock on Klay Thompson. It's just an illustration that Draymond Green is the most irreplaceable guy on that team in terms of the things that he does. No one can even
his
do
skill set.
No one can even do a poor man's version of that. Right?
Do you think Wiggins can, as he ages, do a poor man's version of that?
No, he can't.
Because he's a spectacular defender.
He can't guard
the bigs
like Draymond can. 1, 2. Draymond's defense isn't just tremendous on ball. He's an incredible off-ball defender and a communicator. He makes everyone else better because he's talking the whole time. So he's coaching up the guys out there. He's like a middle linebacker. So Wiggins doesn't do that either. And then offensively, we talk about Draymond as if offensively he's an afterthought. The dude is an incredible passer and playmaker and so smart. He's a guy that makes split decisions based on what the defense is doing, the reads, knowing, okay, I either have the lob here or the guy weak side here or this guy coming off the screen here. And if none of those are available, then that's when I get that one layup a game when he doesn't and he flexes afterwards. And everyone's like, what are you flexing? You have 4 points. But he's flexing because he said, I did the cheat code of figuring out all the things to the point where all the defenders had to stay home on this, that, or the other. The problem is, Dan, we're not talking about what have you done for me lately. When we're talking about this contract, we're talking about what are you going to do for me? So for Draymond, he's got the best thing in his interest is to go out there and be Draymond one more year and show the world again, I'm so important to this. When I got hurt last year, they fell apart. When I played, it picked back up. Steph Curry's great, but he's never as great as he is when he plays with me. These are the things that I'm building if I'm Draymond Green for my prospective free agency if I have to go somewhere else to get paid. But it doesn't behoove him to be angry, upset, or mopey or any of those things because then all of his flaws come to the table where we talk about his attitude and all those things, and it washes away the things that he's really great at, which is playing basketball.
You've got ties to that organization, so you have pretty good insight as to how they might operate. How do you think that they handled this with Draymond Green? I'm not talking about the suspension or anything like that, but they're looking at their roster. Do you think
non-suspension?
Do you think that they're the non-suspension? Do you think that they're fielding calls for Draymond Green? How do they look at it this year? Because they got a reigning champion and a player with a player option next year.
Did you see their tax bill? It's championship or bust. Like that's the only way they have a chance of making enough money to overcome this massive tax bill. So they're not going to trade him unless they feel like he is actively detrimental to a championship pursuit. I don't think they've reached that point yet. I don't think he's reached that point yet.
Couldn't it, though? Couldn't it just, from a leverage standpoint, if Draymond Green decides to make this about, well, you want to see how valuable I am? Look, man, I'm just creating the soap opera elements because you will acknowledge that one of the things, if you need storylines in sports, this is a decorated champion that I believe in the modern time has been underappreciated.
Yes.
Just changed the entire sport with a bunch of freaks that none of us have ever seen. Like just these guys who play basketball a different way than anybody else. They have been a champion that has earned and welcomed the magnet of Kevin Durant. Yes, you will win with us to try and chase LeBron and no one else. Get out of here. We don't need you. We can win without you too. And at the center of that is a dude who's furious all the time and now has been disrespected. I don't think now maybe he looks at it the way you do as a business. Maybe you could say all of this very matter-of-factly, right. I mean. You could say very matter-of-factly, hey, Draymond, it's not, in sports, it's very cold. It's not about what were you worth back then. It's what are you worth now, and you're absolutely right. But if I'm Draymond, just built like he is, from his entire past, you know how badly that makes me want to tell you to go fuck yourself? Just because because I've climbed to the top of this thing. I'm the furnace that lures Durant. All these shooters exist around me because I do all the garbage, all the shit.
But then what's the disrespect? Poole's contract was up. Draymond's got the option
No, but
this
Mike,
summer to
if
continue.
they're choosing Poole and Wiggins over Draymond Green,
But they have to.
But he's going to
gets the money.
You're right, they have to. But he's going to feel disrespected because he's Draymond Green.
He's always Draymond Green.
Yes.
But I think, earlier, Dan, you said, new media and all this. I don't think that stuff matters as much to him as winning, as being recognized as I am one of the great winners. I'm a Hall of Famer. That stuff matters to him. So even as he's not getting the contract that he wanted or the commitment that he wanted, that still comes at, like, he knows why he's getting paid. He gets paid for his success. He's not a guy who can point to gaudy numbers. I get buckets. His monetary, like what you're talking about, my sense of self-worth is inextricably tied to success, team success. So he can't afford to derail it. If he's going for his big payday, he probably has more riding on them being championship contenders than anybody else on that roster. Because that's where his money resides.
They do have him on. You look at the salary and you wonder, are they paying him too much? But dude's making as much as Terry Rozier. It's actually pretty good value, especially for what he brings to the table.
No, he's ridiculously underpaid at this point.
He's behind Anthony Simmons.
Fine.
Yeah, there's one M. Sorry.
But I'll tell you, Dan, we've seen this before, haven't we? Maybe not the personality standpoint, but I signed a deal that keeps me, makes me underpaid, but I am pivotal to the success of this team. And his name is Scottie Pippen.
Well, Tom Brady does it too.
Well, Tom Brady does it as a choice, right? In a hard cap sport where he knows when I take less, I can get a better line or I can get the receiving help that I need. Scottie Pippen was a guy that signed an extension and that was almost instantly underpaid as a result and then was upset about it. But they still went out and won. And then when he was a free agent, he left.
Yes, and he
still has regrets.
And he harbors bitter feelings,
yes.
And he's not the guy who punched people in the face. And
that's not okay.
He's the guy who didn't come back out on the court, though.
But either way,
the part of this that I want to discuss, is the human part of when you're Draymond Green, and now you're managing an upset personality. I think we were all surprised by this, and to me it was management 101. But I think we were all surprised by, wait a minute, Draymond gets no suspension for that from the Warriors? The Warriors are just going to let that slide. And I thought to myself, because they're getting their rings and it's the first night, otherwise they would have suspended him for a game. But you better be careful about this man's feelings.
And I think another part of this that I'm going to dance around, but he mentioned it in that first press conference that he made himself available after the incident, which is he's got stuff going on in his private life that he has admitted, I am not managing well emotionally. And I was having a bad day. I carried it over. It's not an excuse. I'm not excusing what he did. I'm just telling you, some of that anger and fury you're pointing to, Dan, is not an anger and fury about how dare they not pay me. Some of it is just like, man, I'm dealing with some shit.
Yes.
Like Tom Brady.
But so what I would say to you, in the middle of a storyline in basketball's about to start here, and I don't care how unprecedented their greatness is. I don't want to normalize the Golden State Warriors to not give that team enough credit for what they've built and what they feel like they've built, ignores that Durant and LeBron have been punching each other across a decade to try and replace like Michael Jordan and everyone else. This team has been on an amazing run, and at the center of it, Draymond Green is an immensely volatile furnace of force. And managing him and the relations of this, I have a hard time just putting in compartments the idea that he just punched a dude in the face and all is forgiven when him and Kevin Durant couldn't get along for a while, and Kevin Durant had to leave no matter how they do the revisionist history now.
It's not revisionist history because we all knew at the time that Durant was going to leave at the end of the year. That's what precipitated that.
It is revisionist history. They're revising the history. They went on a podcast together and said everybody else got it wrong because new media is you take us for our word.
Everyone knew. Everyone knew that was what the
very old media of you.
The focus was of that whole altercation was the idea that like, yo, you're leaving and you're leaving us in the lurch. But the point is, Dan, the other part of this is, yeah, that's what happens. By the way, this Pat Riley wrote a book about this stuff, right? It called it the disease of me, how it's so incredibly hard. I don't know if you guys watched the Legacy docuseries on Hulu about the Lakers, but when they talk about the end of the Riley era in LA, it was like, holy shit, like it's insane. And Pat's like, he's part of it too. So they swept their way through the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, and then they had 10 days before the start of the finals. Pat Riley takes them to training camp. They go to do a camp, and he pushes them like crazy camp, like a start of the season camp. And everyone's like, man, you're going to wear us out. But Pat's like, no, we got to get better. We got to get better. The day before game 1, they're done with practice. He says, well, they're a pretty good rebounding team. How about the Pistons? We should do one more rebounding drill. That one more drill, that's where Byron Scott gets hurt. And then in the first quarter of game 1, Magic gets hurt. They get swept out of the playoffs. They asked, now this is the disease of me, right? This thing happened 30 years ago. They asked Byron Scott, if you think Pat could do it again, do you think he would have done it differently, handled all that differently? And Byron at first said, yeah, hindsight is 20/20, and now knowing what you know, whatever. Then he said, I'm like, on second thought, it is Pat. And then Pat Riley comes on and says, yeah, I wouldn't do a thing differently. Because in his mind, this success was because of me. I did this. I fix this. I took what Wes Head was doing and tried to mess up, and I put the ball back in Magic's hands, and I made these guys great, right? Everyone has that thought. And at some point, you're like, why are they giving all the credit to this guy? Why not? Why don't I get any love? I was telling this to a friend of mine the other day. Sean Marion, for us, was this incredible jack-of-all-trades player. He guarded 4 positions and was an energy guy. You didn't need to run a play for him. He could score. But Sean also complained about being underappreciated. And it reached a point where people were just like, I don't give a shit, man. Even though he was the best fit for the way we wanted to play. It reached a point where the complaints about appreciation, the complaints about the contract, everyone was just like, I'm done.
I don't know where he did get his money. It hasn't aged. Draymond, he did get paid handsomely, and he's at the end of that contract with a player option coming up. But he's at the end of that. We just devoted about 30 minutes of content to the guy. Meanwhile, Clay is as easygoing as it goes. We don't talk about him. I think Draymond Green gets plenty of credit for their success.
There's a couple things. One is, while Draymond gets a ton of credit, Clay got every last dime of a max deal, and Draymond did not. He got paid well. He didn't get the max deal.
Before the injury?
Before the injury, Clay got the max deal.
I just thought everyone was interested in the soap opera elements of all of this. We're watching the Lakers. What's it going to be like with Westbrook? And at the center of a team that I don't think gets enough credit for being just interesting. That we've normalized that Steph Curry's that he shoots that way. We've normalized that Draymond plays defense that way. Are they still the favorite? Do they go into this next season still as the favorite because they've got
the Nets are,
got a money advantage? No, the Nets.
Are you talking about
the Nets?
Are you talking about
the Nets can't be the betting favorite.
Yeah, the betting favorite.
I think Milwaukee's the betting favorite.
Really?
I believe Milwaukee is.
The Nets would be the betting favorite.
But Dan, to answer your question while it's being researched. To me, the Warriors, if they're healthy, they're the favorites. But I'm not saying that, Dan, you're overblowing it. These are absolutely tense times, right? Again, we all watched The Last Dance during the pandemic. That season was anything but like, we're going to do it again. It was a lot of like, I can't wait till this shit is over. I don't want to play
Our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook have the futures up, and right now there are 3 co-favorites at plus 600. It's the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Boston Celtics.
Wow.
They left out the Nets.
The Celtics?
The Nets are at plus 700 presently on DraftKings Sportsbook.
I don't think that the people listening to this or the people in this room understand or could possibly understand what kind of insane furnace winning must be in a competitive sphere to blow Kevin Durant out the side because he's like, get me out of here. I don't want to be near that shit anymore. And they've been dealing with it. Like LeBron left places. They've been dealing with whatever that is for 7 years. Durant, welcome in, welcome out. But what does that mean? That winning's so hard that everybody needs the credit, that things get poisoned, and that what should just be fun ends up like burning everybody up? What sense does that make?
Well, it starts off as fun, but I think, and I think this is a big part of it.
That's another $5.
I think this is a big part of it, Dan. In terms of who gets the credit for this Warriors run, Draymond usually is like 4th on that list. He just is. It's Steve Kerr. It's Klay Thompson. It's Steph Curry.
He's going to be 4th on the list and 10th on the money, Stugotz. 10th on the money, which is the way a lot of people keep score.
But I'm saying with his ego and the way he thinks, and I don't think he's wrong, by the way, he thinks he's the reason. Maybe Steph, then Draymond, okay? And so that's going to be hard for him. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow that he is not getting paid the same money that Steph and Klay are when he thinks in his mind he's done exactly what they've done to help this run.
So this is from Pat Riley's book, right, where he talks about specifically the disease of me, the 6 danger signals. Number 1, chronic feelings of underappreciation. Number 2, paranoia out of being cheated out of one's rightful share. Number 3, leadership vacuum resulting from formation of cliques and rivalries. 4, feelings of frustration even when the team performs successfully. 5, personal effort mustered solely to outshine one's teammate. 6, resentment of the competence of another player. I'm looking at least 4 of these things right now for the Warriors that might be bubbling. Chronic feelings of underappreciation, paranoia about it cheating out of one's rightful share, feelings of frustration when the team performs successfully, and resentment of the competence of another. That's real, because at the end of the day, Dan, when you are part of a successful outfit, at the end of the day, the way we attribute success is with dollars. We say, hey, who's most responsible for this? That guy. That's why he gets paid that much, and then that guy and that guy. And so ultimately, whenever you're together for long enough, there is going to be questions about how the spoils are divided. And that's what bubbles up, and that's why we don't have dynasties that win 8 in a row anymore, because it's impossible to keep it all together.